If you're like me and you're excited about the prospects of another grounded game coming at some point in the future, I've got some good news for you. A few weeks ago, I posted a video giving my reasons for why I thought a Grounded 2 or another grounded game could happen in the future. And today that opinion has been reinforced by some data from a data analytics company that just points to the, in my opinion, strong likelihood, if the data is correct or even close to correct, that another grounded game would be very likely to happen at some point down the road. Now, before we begin, make sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. So today I'm going to be discussing some information that came from Millennium Analytics, which is a data analytics company that works with gaming publishers as well as financial institutions. And their goal seems to be to provide data to both sides to help get good games out into the market and to help those games be as financially successful as possible. Now, this article was shared to me by Apex. Apex is one of the most passionate players of Grounded. He is one of, if not the most knowledgeable players of Grounded. He's active in the Grounded Discord. He's active on my Discord. He's also a modder for the game. So it comes from a reliable source, but I will say right up front that I have no way of knowing if the data in this article is 100% accurate or how close to accurate it is. However, by reading through it and looking at the numbers, it does kind of line up to the research that I've done up to this point. So I will say that, and as an analytics company, if you put out bad data, you're not going to last very long. So while I can't say for sure 100% that this data is 100% accurate, I think the trends for it speak enough to point to the fact that there's a strong likelihood that there'll be another grounded game. So I'm not going to go through the whole article. Again, there'll be a link for it in the description down below. But the gist of the article is how well have Xbox games on PlayStation been selling so far? It differs. So I'm not going to read the beginning here. We're going to scroll down, and what we're going to be doing here is looking at the parts about Grounded, because that's kind of what you probably care about. So the ports, no pun intended, of Sea of Thieves and Grounded have been big sellers and resulted in significant revenues for Xbox. Let's take a look at the big hitters first. We'll analyze the smaller games later. So Sea of Thieves Rare's co-op pirate romp that came to Xbox and PC in 2018 and hit PlayStation in April 2024 sold 1.8 million copies on PlayStation so far. Grounded, Obsidian's co-op survival game that launched on Xbox and PC in 2020 and came to PlayStation in April 2024, sold 432,000 copies on PlayStation so far. So as you can see, Sea of Thieves is more popular, and that makes sense because Sea of Thieves in general is a more popular game. It's a live service game. It's been getting updated since 2018, and you can even see the Steam numbers here, where it's going to show that the Sea of Thieves has sold roughly 13 million copies on Steam, and it's saying Grounded sold roughly 4 million copies. Again, I'm not sure exactly where they're getting this data from. I can roughly estimate that Grounded sold probably like at least 3 million copies, I would say 2 to 3 million copies. So if it's actually sold 4 million copies on Steam, that's remarkable. But the big thing is it's been pretty popular on PlayStation in the first year, which is pretty solid considering it didn't release on PlayStation until, about a year and a half after it actually left early access, and 4 years after, almost 4 years after it actually came out in early access. So using Steam copies sold as a comparison, we can see the PlayStation players in terms of actual numbers and relatively speaking are more drawn to Sea of Thieves. That kind of makes sense. Sea of Thieves has sold just over 7 times as many copies on Steam versus PlayStation, while Grounded has sold about 9 times as many on Steam. On that note, Grounded recently exceeded $100 million in revenues on Steam, so we'd say Xbox off-platform experience have been worth it so far. Now, where they're getting this number, I'm not sure. Again, they're a data analytics company. They probably have back-end information that we're not aware of as like the general public. The game was $30 on Steam for most of its life cycle, and then it went to $40 at 1.0, but it's also been on sale since then. So it would make sense that $100 million in revenue, that it sold at least like 3 million copies, roughly. So if it sold 4 million, that's even more remarkable. But if the $100 million is actually accurate or even close to accurate, that's a massive, massive amount of money for a game made by such a small team. Going down here, it says, the fact that 29% of Grounded players on PlayStation have also played Sea of Thieves on the platform does suggest a group of Xbox curious players. This makes sense. Many console gamers switched from Xbox 360 to PS4 due to Xbox's eyebrow-raising choices in the Xbox One era. These metrics bode well for the imminent releases of Forza and probably Gears and Halo on PlayStation. PlayStation gamers, especially lapsed Xbox ones, have been dying to get their hands back on these franchises. So this does make sense. Obviously, during the Xbox 360 era, the Xbox console was the most dominant. And then when the Xbox One PS4 came out, a lot of people that were on Xbox dropped Xbox and switched to PlayStation. So getting this game Grounded into the hands of those PlayStation players, a lot of those players have not been able to play Xbox games for an entire generation because they switched over. So and then the fact that it's been so successful in Steam, which I already knew, is just, I think that just really solidifies how successful this game was for the size of it. Now, further on down in the article, this is kind of this kind of just kind of shows how much more successful Grounded's been than some other games. Xbox has also ported over some more niche exclusives to PlayStation more recently. Now, when they say more niche, I find that interesting because I personally find Grounded to be niche. To me, survival games are a niche genre. Other than like Minecraft and maybe I guess like Ark, there's not really a ton of survival games that have millions and millions of players or have had millions of players and have managed to sustain them. So I kind of feel like the survival genre in general is a niche, but I guess these are even more niche games. As our methodology goes beyond what's out in the market, we're happy to give our estimates on these smaller games. For example, Hi-Fi Rush sold roughly 137,000 copies on PlayStation so far. Pentiment sold roughly 14,000, and Age of Mythology Retold sold about 41,000 on PlayStation. And as you can see, their success on Steam, Hi-Fi Rush selling about 700,000, Age of Mythology 435,000, and Pentiment 261,000. So you can see here that the PlayStation players and even, of course, the Steam players were far more interested in Grounded and, of course, Sea of Thieves than they were in these other games. In fact, doing the quick math here, Grounded actually sold about double the copies of all three of these games on PlayStation. So even if, like I said, even if the numbers are not 100% accurate as their estimates, if the trend holds, it just means that Grounded was far more popular than these other games. And that would have to point out to Xbox executives and Microsoft executives, this is a franchise that could make a lot of money. There's a lot of people interested in it, even outside the Xbox ecosystem. Clearly, the game was super successful in Steam. If it sold 400,000 copies or even a couple 100,000 copies on PlayStation, that's a lot of money generated by a very small team. And it would just give more reason for this game down the line to have another game in the series. Again, I'll kind of reiterate some of the things that I've said in my other videos. There's a Grounded television show, an animated television show that's, as far as I know, still in the works. There was a recent interview with Phil Spencer with Variety Magazine where he was talking about how they were trying to expand out some of their IP into, and they were like the major IP out into other forms of media like movies and television shows. The Minecraft movie is coming out a couple of days after I actually am recording this video. So we'll see how that does, but they're just kind of, and then there was the Halo TV show. There was the Fallout television show did extremely well on Amazon, was very well rated. So they're definitely trying to use their IP and kind of get it out there outside of just being video games, because the more exposure you have to it, the more money you can generate, and especially if those shows end up being good, they could actually pull people into buying the video games, and people that play the video games are more likely to actually watch the television shows or movies. So if the Grounded animated series, I feel like that if that drops and is still in the works, that could be something that is just super successful and could attract a lot of people to it, because it would appeal to children. It would appeal to the nostalgia people like me who were originally attracted to Grounded, because it kind of just takes inspiration from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. And there's been really no other game that has kind of captured that. There's been other games where you're shrunk down or you're small and you kind of try to survive, but no other game has captured that so well as Grounded has. I'm really confident now that there's going to be another game in this universe at some point in the future. Whether it be sooner or later, I don't know, but I really just think it's going to happen. So anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Make sure you hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.